I'm Maria Acle.
And I'm Lauren Bird.
Welcome to another season of the Stew Basement Tapes.
This week, the New Brunswick provincial election was the big story. It's what most of our show is about. That and a few other great stories.
At the top of the list today, the new guys move in. The Green Party and People's Alliance take part in the election for the first time this year.
Tuition thaws out. Conservatives and Liberals plan to ditch the tuition freeze after 3 years.
Students at the polls. Elections New Brunswick takes new measures to get students to vote. But first, let's take a look at the results of this week's election. A huge win for the Progressive Conservatives.
Conservatives gathered at the Fredericton Inn to celebrate Premier-designate David Alward's victory. Joining Alward in the celebration were some of the 42 newly elected MLAs.
We truly represent all regions of New Brunswick, every New Brunswicker.
His work as Premier begins on October the 12th, but Alward spent Monday night celebrating with his friends, family, and MLAs.
It's that time of year again. The leaves may be falling, but two parties began to butt in the provincial election. The Green Party of New Brunswick and People's Alliance Party are new, but some say this may not be a bad thing. Haley Ryan has more on the story.
By wearing purple and green sneakers, some students are showing their support for these political underdogs. The Green Party of New Brunswick is known for its focus on the environment. Students like Julianne Butt are concerned about the state of our planet. Julianne is a member of the Students for Sustainability group at STU. She says she votes green because she considers it her only choice.
But I think that it's something that's necessary because it's change. You need change, and that's what they're all about.
Tracy Waite is the candidate for Fredericton Lincoln. Her profession is real estate, but her passion is green.
It's not just about the environment, it's about, sustainable living.
Both the People's Alliance and Green parties would like to revamp the education system in the province, as well as making post-secondary education more affordable. The People's Alliance was created in response to the New Brunswick Power controversy last spring. It promises a government truly representative of the average New Brunswicker. Justin Wright, paramedic and riding director for Fredericton Silverwood, volunteered last March when the party was created.
They want to reintroduce trades in the high school to try to get people to go to community colleges more. It seems to be jobs that people would stay in New Brunswick can do.
As the election comes to a close, both the People's Alliance and Greens are in the bottom 5%. However, they hope to continue growing over the next few years. For STU Journalism, I'm Brianna James.
Tuition fees in New Brunswick are the second highest in the country. With the Progressive Conservatives about to take power, students could be paying even more next year. Shane McGee has the story.
Michael Manning is a third-year political science student from Ontario. He has nearly $30,000 in debt already. With the 3-year tuition freeze coming to an end next year, Mike will need to fill out even more loan paperwork. Mike already works one full-time job in the summer, but he might need to get a second job to cover the basics.
A couple small jobs here and there, like with friends and family. Whatever I can to make a dollar, really. Yeah, it's just anything I can get. When there's free time to work, I mean, you got to do it.
Vice President of Finance and Administration, Lauren Sterling, said fees are likely to be going up. Students won't know until April how much their next school year will cost. That's when the university will finish its budget. The PCs would only say they will keep tuition affordable. The Liberals, who started the freeze, haven't made any promises to keep it around. Last week, Mike voted in his first New Brunswick election. He didn't have a clear first choice before he cast his ballot, but he knew that education was a top concern.
None of the parties really seem to be wanting to do anything, except for the Greens, which I will never vote for, but they want no tuition. Like no tuition costs, like free, that's a great idea. It's not going to happen.
For STU Journalism, I'm Shane McGee.
It was easier than ever for thousands of students to vote in the election. Elections New Brunswick made it possible for students to vote on campus for their home riding candidate. As Amy McKenzie reports, this is only one of the initiatives taken to increase the number of student voters.
Katie McDonald is a 21-year-old student at St. Thomas University. It will cost her $80 to go home to Bathurst to vote in the provincial election. Luckily for Katie, Elections New Brunswick has set up a returning office so she can cast her vote right on campus. She says if she couldn't vote on campus, she wouldn't vote at all.
It would be really inconvenient for me to go back home and have to spend money, and it'd just be a lot easier to vote here.
Yeah, it has my mountain address.
The reason for the government pushing students to vote is based on the 2006 election. Only 50% of eligible voters between the age of 18 and 24 voted. Megan Melanson is in charge of the campus returning office.
A few students actually stepped up to the plate and told Elections New Brunswick that, and complained that there was a lack of presence on campus. And so Elections New Brunswick went head on and took that into consideration and developed this pilot project.
Are you voting this provincial election?
St. Thomas University Student Union is also motivating students to vote. Vice President of Education Craig Mazerol organized several events, such as a concert, roundtable discussion with candidates, and passing out information about the election to students.
Melanson says that because this is a pilot program, they don't have any specific expectations to the number of students that will vote in this year's election. But with easy access to ballots, and combined with the student union's efforts, hopefully more students like Katie will go to the polls. For Stu Journalism, I'm Amy McKenzie.
Welcome back. Equal pay for equal work. This was the subject of an emotional debate at the Fredericton Inn last week. The New Brunswick Coalition for Pay Equity feels that the subject didn't get enough attention in this election. They invited local candidates and activists to join the discussion. More on this with Stephanie Kelly.
It was an unusual topic at this morning's breakfast table. People weren't talking about the weather, but their paychecks. New Brunswick's pay equity bill was passed in April. It ensures equal pay for male and female government employees. However, the coalition wants the same protection for workers in the private sector too. Some professions fall between the lines of these two sectors. Wendy Robbins, a professor at UNB, knows all too well about unequal pay.
On average across the country, the average woman professor will be paid $5,000 less every single year of her career. Okay, on average, that's what's happening. So after a 26-year career, you can imagine I'm out a good deal of money.
The coalition feels abandoned by the main political parties. They don't feel enough progress has been made.
The traditional parties who walk side by side with us on this issue for the last 10 years are not taking a more concrete action on it in their platforms.
Liberal candidate Greg Byrne says his party has raised home and childcare workers' pay. He says members are committed to doing more in the private sector. New Brunswick is one of 6 provinces with specific pay equity legislation.
According to Statistics Canada, in 2008, the wage gap between men and women in New Brunswick was on average $2.70 per hour. This means that women in New Brunswick are being paid 14% less than their male counterparts, something that the New Brunswick Coalition for Pay Equity feels should be a bigger priority in this province's upcoming election. For Stu Journalism, I'm Stephanie Kelly.